Welcome to Business Minds. This week, we introduce you to Véronique Bugeaud, former head of sponsorships development at the OSM, the Symphonical Orchestra of Montreal.
I'm a sales professional, right? So why not go and sell one of the best orchestras in the world? I became head of development, which means that I am in charge of bringing new revenues. It was quite a ride, actually.
That is the title she was holding when we recorded the interview. She changed to a new role since. In this interview, she shares her reality managing sales and dragging revenues in the artistic field and how music can impact your life way more than you think.
They were doing things differently and they had some kind of badass attitude that I liked.
Okay.
Music has changed my life. It's not taken seriously, I find, in our society.
Make sure to subscribe. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to Business Minds. Today we're delighted to host Véronique Bugeaud, Head of Development of Sponsorship at the Orchestre Philharmonique du Montreal. Véronique, thank you so very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
So, can you describe the main responsibilities falling under your role in just a few words so that our audience can understand better what you do?
My role at the orchestra is to generate revenues through sponsorship agreements.
Perfect. Very, very concise. So we like to start at the very beginning of our guest's story to understand where everything started. So my first question is very simple. Where did you grow up, and what kind of job were you dreaming to do as a kid?
I grew up in the suburb, specifically in Laval, but later when I was a teenager, I wanted to become a sound engineer and work in recording studios, record bands.
Okay. Were you a musician yourself?
I studied music from the age of 14 until my 20s, early 20s. I used to play classical guitar mainly.
Okay, very interesting. And so, since you were already interested by the music world industry, what was your vision of the music industry when you were younger and dreaming to become maybe a sound engineer?
I was just very curious about music in general. I liked any kind of music, being Gregorian chants to punk music and rock and roll and classical music. So I was always fascinated by the artists and the music itself. So it was just a natural curiosity that I would have seen myself work in this environment.
Perfect. So what did you study, and did you already have a clear goal in mind of where you wanted to go?
I studied music at high school, and then I didn't know exactly what I wanted to become or be or do in life, so I decided to stay in the musical field. I went to Cégep in classical music, and one thing leads to another. I was very attracted to literature because of the music. All artistic currents are connected, right? So I was introduced to literature by music mainly, and then I decided to switch from music to literature at the university. So I wanted to become a college teacher. In literature. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. And so, did you have any inspiration figures, any role models? Maybe it can be in the artistic world or even in family occurrences. Did you have someone you were looking up to that led the beginning of your career path?
As far as I can remember, I was always very inspired by powerful women or women who dared do things differently than others. So it's funny, but when I look back, I was very impressed with Cyndi Lauper and Annie Lennox from the Eurythmics because they had orange hair. And I thought it was very amazing back in the days. They were doing things differently and they had some kind of badass attitude that I liked. So I was very impressed. And then most of my role models were in the music industry field because I was listening to so much music, right? And then I discovered Melissa Etheridge, who's an amazing guitar player. She plays a 12 strings guitar, and it's very hard to do, I find. in my perspective. So I wanted to be as good as her at guitar playing. So I bought myself a 12-string guitar.
Wow.
And yeah, I was very impressed by a woman who had the drive to try difficult things and do things differently.
And so you mentioned you started your studies in the music field, then you went to literature. How did your career start? What was your first job, basically?
I did my bachelor's degree in literature, and then I started my master's degree in literature in order to become a college teacher. But then I got bored and poor, and I needed to have to live my life and to have a bit more money and to be independent. So I felt I had to experience life a little bit more, just not being in the theoretical world all the time. So I saw an ad in the newspapers, and they were looking for someone at the corporate newswire company. So I was hired there, and it made me discover a whole new world, which is the big corporate world with many industries and many companies, because basically we were the company who would distribute news releases to both the medias and the financial community. So I got to work with like press agencies in the U.S. and around the world. So and I had a lot of clients in different industries, which I found very interesting back then, because we were working with companies in the transportation industry, aerospace, mining industry. And since I'm a very curious person, I got very interested in that field. And lucky enough, I had like managers who saw a nice potential in myself, and they helped me like climb up the stairs.
Excellent. So can you walk us through the main steps of your career? What were the turning points, the main one that made your career what it is today?
Actually, I got hired at this news wire agency because I was interested in writing. I like to write a lot. I thought I would explore the journalistic world a little bit. I worked in that field as a freelance, and ended up in that newswire agency. And then I did that for 10 years.
Okay.
I really liked it. It was a very stressful job because we were like working at the rhythm of the stock markets. But I learned a lot about the financial world and the corporate world, and I really enjoyed this ride. It was quite a ride, actually. But I got to meet a lot of people in different fields. And then after 10 years, I had my first child. And then after my maternity leave of 1 year, I wasn't ready to give up on motherhood. So I decided to go back to university. And consider again being a college teacher. So I decided to finish my master's degree in literature, and then I got my second and third children.
Okay. Wow.
And yeah, my life just took another turn. And when I was finishing my master's degree, I was working on, part of my master's degree was on the impact of sound and music on the brain.
Okay, very interesting.
So that's how I ended up reading, totally by accident, Kent Nagano's book, which is called Classical Music, The Unexpected. And then I said to myself, why did I not think about this earlier in my life? So I'm a sales professional, right? So why not go and sell one of the best orchestras in the world? And from that day on, I decided not to go as a college teacher for many reasons. And I said, the thing I do best in life is being a sales professional. So I decided that I was going to the OSM, and there was no other way possible. So I managed my way until they hired me.
Very beautiful. Thank you for this. Maybe can you tell us who is Kent Nagano for those in our audience who do not know who he is?
Kent Nagano is the former conductor of the OSM. He's been with the orchestra for 16 years. When I got to work at the orchestra, he was the music director in charge of the orchestra.
Perfect. Thank you for telling us your career path so far. Can you tell us the story of how you were promoted to your current role of head of development for sponsorships?
When I started at the OSM, my role was to develop new sponsorship partnerships. And after a year and a half or so, within the sponsorship departments, I had a bit of success doing what I was expected to do. So I became head of development, which means that I am pretty much the only person in charge of bringing new revenues in the sponsorship department.
Excellent. And so can you explain now the role of sponsorships in an artistic organization like yours? And who are your main partners, for example?
The role of the sponsorship department for the orchestra is very important because it's one of the three sources of revenue the orchestra has, being public funds, government subventions, sponsorship and donations, and ticket sales. So it's a big revenue source for the orchestra. And also, it's not only is it a source of revenue for the orchestra, but it's also an opportunity for the orchestra to be visible to other audiences through the different sponsorship agreements that we have. Let's say that we have a brand that would not be naturally in the ecosystem of the orchestra. Well, it's a good opportunity for us to be visible to this specific audience and to develop our market share.
Excellent. And so when we looked at the definitions for sponsorships, usually it involves a financial contribution. Is it the only type of sponsorship that exists? And if not, what kind of partnerships? Do you have examples of like the way you build sponsorships with partners?
The main sponsorship agreements that we have is in exchange of financial contributions, that's for sure. But sometimes it's more with services exchange. So we could have sponsorship agreements in exchange of not financial contributions, but services like catering or food and bev or audio systems for outdoor events. For example, we did a concert yesterday for our young audiences, and we had sponsorship agreements with the major sports team in Montreal. So they accepted to give their official sweaters to our musicians to serve the artistic project on stage. So it certainly has a value, but it was not a financial contribution.
Okay, so both organizations share the visibility with the other. Is that right?
Yes, that's an example of good practice in sponsorships.
Excellent. And so what is, in your opinion, the most important project that you've worked on so far?
I would say that anytime I get to promote the orchestra or to promote the importance of arts and music in the development of human beings, people in general, I'm very satisfied. Anytime I can bring music, anytime I can contribute to bring music to different audiences or to share that message, I'm very happy with this result. Now, if you want examples of sponsorship agreements for which I'm very proud of, well, I had a lot of fun in the last few months working on the beer project. We developed a partnership with a brewing company here in Quebec, and we decided to create our own beer, the OSM beer.
Wow.
And it's a project that served many interests, but it was a lot of fun to do because it involved our musicians. It involved people from the administration of the OSM. It certainly involved the brewing professionals of this brewing company. And it involved the public as well, because the end result, I mean, they're the consumers. So that was a lot of fun to do. We created the Pilsner Symphonique. And it was a lot of fun to work on this project because it brought music to another audience to whom we don't naturally speak. All the audience of the brewing company, we were visible to them through the platform of this beer company. So I was happy because it allowed us to speak to a whole new world of people and to have them discover who we are and what we do, because we had a QR code on the can. So the object itself became a promotional tool for the orchestra. And a symphonic orchestra does not only play very classical repertoire. It's also, we have a lot of collaborations with pop artists. And on the can, on this very playlist, we had all sorts of musical collaborations. So it was a discovery tool for this very audience.
Very interesting. This is a great example that the sponsorship can be like a lot of creative ideas and not just a financial check that's given there. So thank you very much for this. Mm-hmm. Looking maybe at the other side of the coin, what is the most difficult situation you ever had to face? And do you have any tips now of how things that can be useful to get out of it?
Certainly one of the toughest moments was the pandemic. But we talked so much about this this pandemic that I don't know what's left to say about it. But it certainly was a challenge for for many industries, but specifically for the cultural industry, I find. And it was very challenging because all of a sudden, all of our sponsorship agreements, which were based on a very specific visibility plan that it includes the public in the concert hall, mainly, it all fell apart. So we really had to work hard to maintain those investments. And yeah, it forced us to think outside of the box for real, and to be creative and to reinvent our profession.
Nice way to say it. Thank you. Mm. And so you mentioned your job as working into sponsorship as some of sales. That's what you said earlier. Mm-hmm. What are the most important skills that you have acquired in your career as of today?
I would say how to read people.
Okay.
Courage. Being able to stand for what you believe in and being able to say it out loud, even if it's difficult sometimes. But how to read people, I think the basics of sales at the very beginning, it's human relations. I mean, you have to develop a relationship of confidence to the people you have in front of you. if they don't have any confidence in what you're saying, you won't get the deal. So at the very beginning, sales is all about human relations.
Excellent. Thank you very much for this. And so my next question is a little bit more personal within your workplace. How do you think your coworkers perceive you, or how would they describe you in a few words? And has this perception ever changed throughout your career?
I think they would certainly say that I'm very passionate,
Okay.
that I'm innovative, impatient, a bit pushy sometimes because I'm a doer, I'm a go-getter. I need things to like move, and I need to be in action. So yeah, but it's all because of the passion.
Excellent. Very good.
I think I can be very empathetic and generous, but yet I'm very honest, and sometimes it can hurt sensibilities, let's say.
Okay. Thank you for the...
But always with respect.
Yeah. Thank you for the diplomatic way to say this. Now we will switch roles and put you in the observant position. In your opinion, what will be an ideal employee, and how do you notice high potential employees, especially in the specific field of sponsorships?
I think the ideal employee for me is someone who will not be afraid to assume who they are. Authenticity is important, very important. I think you have to be creative, and I like to work with people who are not afraid to take risks, try other things that they're not used to. People who can be courageous enough to get out of their comfort zone, who can speak for themselves if they're happy or unhappy with a situation. I'm not really a person who likes gray zones. I like when things are clear, so I try to be as honest as I can, even when it's difficult, and I expect the same from the people with whom I work. That's a very important skill I'm looking for.
Thank you. That was very clear. As you're saying, perfect for this. My last question of this section is a bit different. We're going a little bit back in time. What is the most important thing when you look back at your career that you learned in school?
That's a very good question. I think the main thing I learned in school is, I would say, is humility.
Oh, okay.
Because the more you learn, I find, the more you realize that you know nothing. Mm-hmm. It's endless. I mean, one book leads to another, one artistic current leads to another, architecture can lead you to decoration, or I don't know. I mean, mining industry can lead you to being interested in metals and geology, and anything that the more you learn, the more you realize that you certainly gain experience, and of course you learn many things. I mean, school is super important. Education is the key for many things in life, I find. But you have to recognize that it's impossible to know everything, and I wish I could live forever just to be able to learn about all those subjects that I like, but you don't get time in life to read everything you'd like to read, and listen to everything you'd like to listen. So yeah, humility.
Now this last section will focus more on your vision of your industry. So we mentioned quickly earlier the COVID period, when shows were limited or even canceled. How did that transform your industry and the way you see partnerships within the industry today?
With the pandemic, one of the positive things that came out of this crisis situation was that we became a lot better at what we do in terms of social media. We already had very good audiences on our different own medias, we call, but that really, we got a major increase because we were streaming a lot of content. We were creating a lot of original content with our musicians and so on. We never stopped doing concerts. There was no public in the hall, but we had a lot of concert available on streaming. So that was a good way to still have revenues from our art. And we became very good with playing with with gathering data because we didn't have any paper support or to promote the brands of our sponsors. So we had to have digital impressions. So we created content and we went to get tools to better help us understand who we were and how we were targeting our different audiences. So that is something that remained after the pandemic. So I think that it really accelerated our digital transformation for the better.
Excellent. And so, side question now, what would be your ideal kind of partnership? You mentioned some different activities like displaying music in certain events. What would be your ideal kind of partnership? And second part of the question, what makes a partnership in the cultural field unique compared to other fields, in your opinion?
I think the best partnership is the one that serves the interests of the brand who invests in the property, but it has to serve the property as well. So the orchestra has to win something out of it. The brand definitely has to win something out of it, and the public as well, the audience. It has to be a win-win-win situation where the orchestra will surely benefit from the financial contribution, but the brand will beneficiate from the orchestra's audience for increasing its sales, its reputation.
Next question is the last of this section. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received throughout your career?
Celle-là, je l'aime.
And would you give the same piece of advice to your 20-year-old young self?
I think that the best advice I was given when I was in my early 20s and I started in the sales industry was never take no for an answer. Do not take no for an answer. Do your homeworks, know your product inside out. Make sure that you pinpoint all the possible objections that might come up in the conversation. Be ready to answer all those objections. And then it's going to be easy to, well, no, it's never easy, but do not take no for an answer and be prepared. It is the best advice that I was given. Also, I was told, do not be shy or afraid to ask for the contract or the business. Ask for it. If you don't ask for it, no one's going to give it to you. So I would like to do business with you. I want to be your partner. What is your budget? Sometimes when you start in the sales business, it's a bit intimidating to ask, what is your budget? As simply as that. And you tend to try to guess what kind of money is available for your project, but that's just a waste of time. I mean, just not every companies will tell you right away what is the available budget on your project, but ask for it. Nothing to lose.
Very insightful. Thank you very much. We might use that for the future ourselves. Thank you very much. So now we are getting to the last few questions of this interview. And this one is very specific. What do you have left to accomplish?
I think that I am not happy right now with the amount of people that I have convinced to invest in arts, in music. It's never enough. I mean, I think it's one of the most important investment in society that a company can make. I have 3 kids and they all play music. I don't expect them to become musicians, but I can see the benefits of music and arts on their mind, on their critical thinking, on their creativity. The impact is so huge, and yet it's not taken seriously, I find, in our society. And I think that one of the most important reason why I wanted so bad to work at the orchestra is because music has changed my life for the better. And I would like other people, young people, and everyone who's got a bit of a curious mind to experiment the benefits of what music and arts can do to your journey in life.
Very beautiful. Thank you for this. Now, if you could have a private meeting with someone, dead or alive, it could be anyone, who would it be?
I think I'd like to have a coffee or maybe a beer with John Lennon.
Mm-hmm. Good one.
I was introduced to rock and roll by the Beatles, and the Beatles had a big influence in my life, in my musical experience, and I still listen to the Beatles, and I really, I would like to speak with John Lennon.
Very good one.
Mm-hmm.
And so this leads us to my final question of this interview. What can we wish you for the future?
Just to continue having fun in what I do, be happy in my life, have the feeling that I'm the best parent I can be for my kids, stay healthy to accomplish all those beautiful things I'd like to do before I die.
Perfect. Excellent way to conclude this interview. Véronique, thank you so very much for being with us today. This was Véronique Bugeaud on Business Minds.
Thank you. Et je le fais
comme ça.
Comme ça.
Ouais,
Comme
en fait, peut-être de haut en bas.
OK.
Ouais,
Comme
exactement.
ça.
Ouais.
C'est bon.
Le son était bien. Le claquement était bon.